Okay, this is a very busy chart. Took me a lot of time to write this up, but it is the most important lesson you'll learn about gaining financial freedom and wealth in your life. And it proves that anyone in this great nation can become wealthy based on Einstein, what they call Einstein's Rule of 72. It was actually rediscovered by Einstein, but discovered by an Italian mathematician about 400 years ago. And the rule of 72 says you take the rate of return that you're getting off your money, which is, for instance, if you put your money in the bank right now, you might get 4% on a money market or CD. For probably 20 years, you couldn't get anything in a bank, maybe 1%. And that's your rate of return, 1%, 4%. If your home appreciates 5% a year, your rate of return on your home is 5%. And the S&P 500, which are the 500 biggest stocks in the country, if you look in the center of my busy chart, it has returned an average of 10% a year over the last 100 years. So if a 16-year-old can save $4,000 a year, and you would say, well, how in the world can a 16-year-old, which is a lot of money, save $4,000 a year? Well, right now, the minimum wage, depending on what state you're in, is anywhere from $7.25 in, I think, like Mississippi, up to $15 in Maryland and other states. So you take an average, $11 an hour times 40 hours a week is $440 gross. And after tax, and you can find apps online that help you calculate that, but your net after tax would be $388.97. Times 11 weeks in the summer, they take a week off to go goof around with their buddies or girlfriends. So they end up with $4,279. So in fact, a 16-year-old can save $4,000 in just the summer. So if you take that $4,000 and they put it under the mattress for 5 years, at the end of 5 years, they'd have $20,000. But if they do what we suggest in a free book you can pick up at medconnect180.com, where we lay out a very simple plan that you can do in 30 minutes a year. But if they put it and invest it, they probably have more like $25,000. But we'll be conservative and we'll say they stuck it under their mattress and they saved $20,000 by the time they were 20. So by the rule of 72, now they invest that money in the S&P 500. So by the time they're 28 years old, they have $40,000. By the time they're 35, they have $80,000. By the time they're 43, they have $160,000, and so on, doubling their money. Now, they never saved another dime. They stopped at age 20. At age 65, they would have $1.4 million. Imagine if they kept saving every year that $4,000. But we'll say they stop. Then you invest that money in maybe municipal bonds and some more conservative investments. Off that $1.4 million, they could achieve an annual income of $86,400. Plus their Social Security from work, they would have maybe $100,000 a year. Now, I take my example farther. What if somehow the kid worked all year and saved $8,000 a year? Then they get to, by age 65, they almost have $3 million. At 6%, they would have an annual income of $173,000 a year, plus Social Security could be close to, $200,000 a year. If they didn't touch that money, because we're all going to be living longer and people are going to be working longer, by age 72, that $2.8 million would double again to almost $5.8 million. So the other example I want to show, again, that anybody can do this. You don't have to start when you're 16. Now, time is on your side. The earlier you begin, the better. But this works no matter what age you're at. You can shift these ages, and I do that in the free book you can get at medconnect180.com. I show you all different types of ages, examples, rates of returns, and a very simple way to invest this money, only spending 30 minutes a year doing it. But let's say you get out of college. The starting average college graduate earns $55,260 a year. Over the lifetime, their average income will be $70,000. But you might say, Dean, I can't go to college. Either you don't have the capacity, you don't have the money, although there are ways to get a college education. But a plumber, go to trade school. A plumber, an average plumber earns $58,000 a year. And I know plumbers that earn over $100,000 a year. All they do is fix clogged toilets, but they do it like a machine, and they charge a one-time, service call fee, and they make over $100 an hour. So again, a graduate at 22, they're making $55,000, and maybe in your first year or two, you live at home with your parents, or maybe you live with 4 or 5 roommates, but you are conservative, you're single, you don't have kids, so you find a way after tax to put away 20 grand a year. At the end of 5 years, you would have $80,000. You'd probably have closer to $100,000 because, again, you would dollar cost average and save and invest that money. But let's say at $80,000, now you've invested in the S&P 500 in the stock market, and you can see that by age 54 instead of 65, you've reached millionaire status somewhere around age 52, and at age 54 you have 1.4. Now, as I suggested, that if after 5 years instead of 80,000 you have 100,000, then by age 54 you already have 1.6 million. And so I always ask myself, why do professional athletes, so many of them, end up broke? And that's because, unfortunately, their accountants or investment advisors get them into all sorts of crazy investments. And if they would just take, and I also understand, listen, a lot of athletes, they struggle their whole lives. Some of them grow up in poverty, and they want to live high on the hog and finally buy a nice car, buy a nice house. But if you get a $4 million contract, put $1 million away in the stock market and don't touch it. And by the time you're 37 years old, again, the rule is 72, you'll have $4 million. So even if you get injured in your second year, your fourth year, or whatever, you're still going to earn at 6% at age 37 with some conservative investments, $240,000 a year. My wife always tells me, stop feeling sorry for all these broke musicians and athletes. But I think the guy that really bums me out is Sly Stone. Here's a guy that created so much amazing music, and his handlers and his family and all the people around him, he lives in a mobile home. He's got like almost nothing left in, as far as net worth. And if he would have just taken $1 million and put it away, he would be living off that interest at this point. But the other points I want to make here is so many kids put so much of their dreams and hopes in athletics. Hey, listen, I love sports. I played baseball. Now at my age, I've taken up basketball. I regret not playing it as a kid. It's a phenomenal sport. But the reality is less than 2% of college D1 athletes ever go pro. And so, of course, you hear about the Michael Jordans and the LeBrons and, making millions and millions of dollars, the Tom Brady's but the majority of even pro athletes don't make that much money. Football players do, basketball players do, but all these other pro athletes don't, on average, don't make that much money. But anyway, 2% are the only ones that go pro and make money. That means if you don't get an education, 98% of you are going to be struggling for the rest of your life. So my point is here, school is cool, education is key. You get a college education, at a minimum, you're going to start earning $55,000 a year. And if you don't go to college, work hard at a trade and do something you enjoy and you're passionate about. Now you've got the NIL, which is taking a carrot and another carrot and put it out in front of athletes. So you sort of get brainwashed again. Well, last year, the average college student only made $3,700 a year. And only a few athletes make in college are now making 6 figures or 7 figures. There's only, I think, 110 college athletes that made over $100,000 last year. So, of course, you hear about the various athletes that make $1 million, but they're few and far between. So, again, there's 3 keys to you becoming wealthy in your life without being a pro athlete. One is understanding everything you can about the Rule of 72. So again, I highly encourage you to get a free book at medconnect180.com. Number 2 is education. Get your high school degree. Get a college degree if you can. It's becoming easier and easier for students to go to college for free. And budget. You've got to have a budget, because this is a message to our people in Congress. You can't spend more than you earn or you'll go broke. So as we continue to raise the deficit, it's not good. So budget, set written specific goals. And I would say the 4th thing is to try to get into something you're passionate about, that you are motivated by, that gets you up every day. Because study after study, TED Talk after TED Talk, book after book, shows that people that do things they love and are passionate about are much more likely to be successful. But even if you're slaving away at a job and you're only making $50,000 a year, you can still put some money away and become wealthy in your lifetime. Thanks for listening. Keep a picture of this chart. Make sure you understand every concept. You can do that by getting your free book, Anyone Can Become a Millionaire. And learn about medical sales. If you have a college degree, I stumbled into it. It has been the most phenomenal, exciting, rewarding, and lucrative career I could have ever hoped for. And for 7 years, I struggled, I bounced around, and at age 29, I found myself broke and living on a friend's floor of his office on a mattress topper, not even a mattress. But I stumbled into medical sales. It's been the greatest blessing in my life, and the Rule of 72 has opened my eyes. Thanks, and I wish you all the best and success in everything you do.